All right, welcome into the Butt and Breneman Show. I'm Jake Butt, he's Adam Breneman, and this is the Butt and Breneman Show. This is the week we've been waiting for, I'm sure you've been waiting for. Michigan travels on the road to play the Nittany Lions. Both teams in a unique spot. Michigan is perfectly clean this season, undefeated. Penn State, after losing to Ohio State, kind of found themselves last week against Maryland. Huge game. Here's where I want to start with you, Adam, because this is a big thought I had. This is big noon kickoff. So it's a 12 p.m. kickoff. I loved playing in the noon. I love playing at night or noon as a player. I loved them both. I like the fact that the noon, you just wake up and go. You don't have time to think about it. You just get rocking. But I do remember that clip, I think it was 2018, where Michigan got to delay a game to start the game because the environment was rocking. Are we making it? Does it really matter? Like, what's your thoughts on the kickoff time?
It'll still be a great environment at Penn State. I actually, it's funny. I heard Coach Franklin talk about this a little bit recently, and I think I agree with him on the notion that I feel like night games sometimes, Jake, can get a little sleepy feeling. Like they just get a little. Your players are up all day. The fans have been tailgating all day. Sometimes the energy's not there. Now in the whiteout game, that normally doesn't happen. But if it's not the whiteout, I think the best case scenario for Penn State is that this is a noon game. The fans have their coffee hitting their system right as kickoff starts. The players aren't going to be, a lot of times you think that noon games players start slow. What I always found is I felt like I played better in noon games.
Yeah.
You wake up, you're ready to roll. Night games, you're thinking about the game all day. You almost get analysis paralysis, right? You're thinking about it all day long, and you get a little bit of a sleepy start. There's no doubt. With the magnitude of this game and for what it means to Penn State, what this game means for Michigan, their first real test of the season, it's going to be a big one. And I think the environment will be rocking at noon Eastern time.
Man, yeah, those night kickoffs, like you're kind of emotionally exhausted. Like the last thing you want to do is sit in your room all day and lay down. Like that's not good. Like it's good to get out, get some fresh air, go for a walk, have some fun, watch some games, maybe take an afternoon nap. But those are long days. You said the fans will be drinking coffee for the noon game, maybe something else for the night game. Though I was walking through a tailgate at a university last week in Indiana where I saw them drinking coffee, but they had Baileys in the coffee. The fans are going to be getting rowdy regardless for this game, man. This has huge implications. Let's just jump right into it because I just think about it. Let's start with Penn State. The Ohio State game was frustrating, just in total summary, frustrating. And then you come back versus Indiana, and that was a scary game. I mean, Indiana gave Penn State all they could handle. And then it felt last week that maybe they found themselves a little bit versus Maryland. Where are you at with this team right now, your confidence meter? Do you feel you've seen what you needed to see between Ohio State to now Maryland as you head into the Michigan week?
There's a lot up in the air still, Jake. It's tough because in the biggest game, in the biggest moment of the year, they didn't come to play. And there's the positive you can look at is that Penn State played as bad as humanly possible against Ohio State on offense, 1 of 16 on third down, couldn't run the football. They were terrible on offense against Ohio State and still lost by a touchdown to the number one team in the country. So you can look at that as a positive and say, there's no way we play that bad again against Michigan, right? That you got to play better than 1 of 16 on third down. And will it go? Will something break our way when we play a little bit better on offense? But at the same time, the concerns are there on offense about the explosiveness, about the ability to throw the ball down the field. Against Maryland was the first time we saw that offense open up. Keandre Lambert-Smith played well at wide receiver. Dante Cephas played well. Their transfer receiver that they got in this offseason, which is what they've needed. The area, we talked about it on the Ohio State week, Jake, the area between the biggest difference of Ohio State and Penn State was that receiver room. And it's not even close. And it's not even the same universe of the Ohio State receivers and the Penn State receivers. So Penn State's had to step up. They did against Maryland. But Maryland's defense cannot even compare to Michigan's defense, right? Yeah. It's not going to be the same battle. So there's a lot of unknown. This is also the second big test Drew Aller's going to have, and those thoughts and what people will be saying about how they performed against Ohio State are going to be there, and the notion of that James Franklin is 4 and whatever against Ohio State and Michigan. Like those are the thoughts that and the outside noise that they're going to be dealing with all week now. Again, I felt like Penn State was prepared for the Ohio State game. I felt like the program was in as good of a spot as it could be. I still feel like they have the talent and they have the people and they have the quarterback to do it. But now Drew Aller has to go out at home and play a really good football game because he's going to have to win this game with his arm at some point.
Hey, Fat Man had a good game too. Katron Allen, right? I think he had 14 for 95. Yeah. So, yeah, man, I think what it is a chance for Drew Aller is, it's little steps. You have the Ohio State game and you saw the frustration in his eyes. And really, this is the great thing about football, especially when you're young. You'll get another chance at it. You'll get another chance at it versus a very comparable defense in terms of how tough they are to move the ball against Ohio State to Michigan, Penn State as well. The thing with Michigan that's interesting is how deep they are at all three levels. And what that means is they're rotating interior defensive linemen and they don't lose a beat. So you can't exactly wear them down. They're fresh always. So it's really hard to run the football. They're deep in the linebacker room. They have safeties that can match up because I love both the tight ends, Theo Johnson and Tyler Warren. That's going to be a matchup I'm going to have my eyes on. It's usually one of the better matchups to go to when your quarterback needs to settle into the game early. So that's really interesting. On the flip side, as I look at this, when Michigan has the football, I think this is where things get really interesting because of who Manny Diaz wants to be as a defensive coordinator. I'll just give you my thoughts. When you watch Michigan play this year, their passing game has looked phenomenal. Like it's taken strides. One of their favorite concepts is getting Roman Wilson to the inside of a slot and running a crosser because he's a fast dude. He hits like 22 miles an hour, 23 miles an hour. So Michigan loves, and we saw this in the Purdue game at times, and then we'll talk about the adjustments. Michigan loves to see a single high coverage with the safety in the middle of the field and then outside leverage man-to-man. And they put Roman Wilson in the slot or motion him down. And what they do is they get him working vertical, foot in the ground and across the field. And not a lot of guys are going to run with Roman in a track meet. Those are easy reads, easy completions for JJ. Well, what happened a couple times is when Purdue would mix it up and show a one high shell and drop into zone. It looks the same, and it forces the quarterback to kind of pat the ball a little bit. JJ's phenomenal at getting to his check down. He drops it down. That takes maturity. But I think that's going to be a thing to watch here is the pre-snap. How well can Manny disguise his looks? And he does a good job of it. Versus, what can Michigan do to get him show his hand? Go back and watch the Ohio State game. How many catches were Marvin Harrison working over the middle, inside, right? A large number of them was him working inside on crossers. So what's your take on, if you want to respond to that or just the matchup of, Michigan ball, Penn State defense?
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a good point of what Manny Diaz wants to be on defense, and it's not a secret. He wants to be aggressive. He wants to load the box. He wants to man up his defensive backs and make plays, make teams win games throwing the football. I do think that Penn State did not have a great awareness of where Marvin Harrison Jr. was on the field against Ohio State, which is hard to even imagine how that happens with a player like that. But they just didn't. On third down and long, on third down and medium, when everyone knew the ball was going to Marvin Harrison Jr., it felt like even Penn State was playing some one hole, which is where one of the safeties is you have a high free safety, and one of the other safeties is kind of a free roamer in the middle of the field. And the lack of awareness, I thought at times that free player had of where Marvin Harrison Jr. was kind of shocking at times, and they allowed him to make big plays. I don't think that'll happen again, right? Because it's been such a big thing for the Penn State program since that game that they got to know where Roman Wilson is on third down and in big moments. One of the big things I want to see, Jake, is when Michigan has the ball is what do these Penn State edge rushers do? Can Chop Robinson, assuming he plays and is healthy, and Adisa Isaac get after JJ McCarthy? They need to create havoc for JJ McCarthy early in this game. They need to create havoc on third down. I think that's one of the big keys. That's the strength of this Penn State defense. Really, the Penn State team is that those edge rushers, and they need to have a monster day if they're going to slow down JJ McCarthy.
Chop Robinson's health is a massive storyline.
No
Is
doubt.
he healthy, and how healthy is he? How well can he affect the game based on his health? Because look, that's the best edge rusher Michigan has seen this year. He's a first round talent at his best. When you have a good offense, one of the best, if you can get to the root of it, don't dance with them. If you have someone that's disruptive across the defensive line, that's why DNs get paid what they get paid and go where they go in the draft. Everything else works if you have one guy that can get there.
Jake, what's your concern level around, Michigan's schedule to this point? And when you look at, the best team they played may be like UNLV or
Right.
Rutgers.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's an experienced team and JJ's played in big games, but I think about a team, and every team is a new substance, a new group together. What happened last year doesn't really matter. And they haven't really faced anyone. Penn State will be by far the best team they played, the best defense they played by far. What do you think about that? Do you think there's any concern there of how are they going to play against a really good defense?
I don't buy into that as much as some do, because I really think this is just kind of the nature of college football. Like, frankly, when you're one of those top teams in the country competing for a national title, there's going to be long stretches of your season where you aren't exactly tested. So then, as an analyst, we have to look and see how they handle those moments. Like, it shows maturity if they're still disciplined, if they're still executing, if they're still doing their job and playing just good team football. And I think Michigan's checked all those boxes. The other thing is like, hey, this is an experienced roster. Going back to the offseason, they returned the 5th most talent in college football. So they have guys that have been there. Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, JJ McCarthy, Roman, Cornelius, Colston, AJ, all across the whole line on both sides of the ball. So guys have been there. That in mind, I do think, with the 12 p.m. game and with everything at stake and with what we just talked about of the initial test for Michigan, as well as the urgency for Penn State, starting fast is critical in these games.
No
you
doubt.
do not want to be the team sleepwalking and dig yourself in a hole before you wake up. So that's where I look at Mike Yursich and I look at Sharon Moore. That first 10 play sheet that you're working off of, I don't know that you necessarily save some of your best plays for later in the game. I think you might sprinkle some of those in those first 10 to try to, especially the crowd is a factor.
Crowd.
That works both ways, so you're going to want to get off to a fast start.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I have on my keys of the game. Number one is start fast for both teams. So especially Michigan with the crowd wanting to silence them. I do think, Jake, too, to your point about Michigan and their experience and not playing great teams, I do think, too, with some of just the outside distractions around the Michigan program. I know what happens in the situations is teams either fall apart or they come together and closer than they even were before. We've all seen it when there's adversity,
right.
Whether it's a quarterback getting hurt, whether it's outside noise, whether it's a coach getting fired. Teams either fall apart and they don't have any leadership, or they come together. The thing that worries me for Penn State is that with Michigan's leadership, their experience, and who I know Jim Harbaugh to be, I think that team comes together and rallies together in a way that they haven't even before. And I think that could end up being a benefit for Michigan is having to come together and say kind of the us against the world mentality of let's go do this thing and do it at a high level. So I do think that's a big part of this storyline too. And then the other thing, Jake, you mentioned the starting fast. To me, this game for Penn State, if they're going to win this game, Penn State has to win first down. They have to be good on first down on offense. They can't put Drew Aller in a third down and long situation. That's a lot of the 1-16 against Ohio State. A lot of it was because they couldn't run the football. A lot of it was because they weren't good on first down. They were in second and 8, second and 9, second and 10, third down and 8. You can't put your young quarterback in that situation. So Penn State has to be great on first down, and then be great on first down on defense as well. You have to get JJ McCarthy behind the chains, because if there's one area that you want JJ McCarthy in, it's third down and long. Can he stand there and go through his progressions with it? Like, what is he going to be in that situation? And as you know, Jake, more turnovers happen on third and long than any other down and distance in football. So can Penn State's defense and Chop Robinson and Adisa Isaac, we talked about that matchup, can they force Michigan in a third down and long? If Penn State can win first down in this game, I like their chances.
You know, the funny thing is you're exactly right. Because what I'm about to say doesn't matter. You still have to approach that. But JJ McCarthy's stats on like 3rd and 7+ or like
They're
third
actually
and long,
good.
whatever, they're actually like really good. Yeah, it's like super counterintuitive. That doesn't mean you say, oh, well, let's let them get to 3rd and short. You know, you still want them at 3rd and long. It is interesting. As far as the Penn State offense goes, you know, you talk about the stats on 3rd down versus Ohio State, and you say 3rd down percentage. The best thing to do is to avoid 3rd down altogether. The best thing to do is have 5-yard, 6-yard chunk plays. You know, forget 3rd down percentage. Just move the ball. I'm still waiting to see Singleton. I want to see it. I know he's capable of it. I know if he gets in the open field. I know what happens when he gets space. I'm waiting to see it. And, you know, for a young man that's so talented, what better week? What better week to do it than, you know, you want to be tested as a great player. Like no one remembers you when you have a good game and it's 70-0. You know, do you have a good game? I think about Hassan Haskins at Michigan, right? When Michigan fans hear Hassan Haskins, they think 2021 in the big house, what he did running the football, right? Those big moments are when you become something bigger than yourself if you can excel.
Yeah.
So
the other big matchup that I'm excited to see is just I mentioned the Penn State receivers. Is do those guys, Condre Lambert-Smith and Dante Cephas, step up? Because they have to. They have to step up, especially against the Michigan defense. We talked pre-show, Jake, about Mike Sainristil, right? Sainristil?
Yes. Yep. The nickel.
Mike Sainristil. He's a great player. I was watching some of his stuff on PFF the other day. Like those matchups, how do those guys perform? Because to date, those guys played well against Maryland. They didn't play well against Ohio State. And now it's their other big test of the season. So big time players step up and make big plays and big moments. There's going to be big moments in this game where it's going to be 3rd down and 7, and they may be in the red zone, and someone has to make a play. Michigan's gonna be playing man to man. Like Condre Lambert-Smith is going to have to get open. Dante Cephas is going to have to win on one of those slot fades. Like someone's going to have to make a play, and can those guys do it against the Michigan defense?
All right, man. Well, listen, what are we wagering here? So whichever team wins, the other one's got to wear the other person's gear next week to our show.
I would gladly wear a Jake Butt jersey if I was actually Jake Butt for Halloween. I was.
Really?
Hey, I like it. Let's wait. Can we get your prediction?
Yeah, I do think I like the line. I think the line right now is Michigan -5. I see this very similar to the game of Ohio State on the road versus Penn State last year, where this is a close game. It's a heavy defensive battle, and then late is when a team separates. There'll be a few plays made in the 4th quarter that I think separate for one team or for the other. If the other team can't respond to that momentum, I think that's a huge thing. But I see this being a pretty close game, inside of 10 points, but I take Michigan to win.
Yeah, I mean, you know where I'm going with this one. I think Penn State wins on a field goal, and then we have an absolute wild scenario on both sides of the Big Ten, which would be exciting.
Oh my gosh!
you
can never get bored in this profession. I mean, we're gonna keep you on your toes always. So, all right, man. Well, I can't wait to see you in Amazing Blue next week, and you're gonna look great when I send it your way. So, all right, man. Thanks for checking in. Yeah, we'll see you guys next week.